Hello everybody, my name is A-Bit Preston and welcome to the video that I should have made around 2 weeks ago. Welcome to my honest reviews on Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. So, as you can tell, this video is very long overdue and I apologize for that. We have already started the next playthrough and we're halfway through that pretty much, and I haven't even made this video. So, I would like to apologize to you all for the wait on this, and by making up for this, I'll be uploading this, and I'll also perhaps be doing a live stream of a GameCube title one night later this week. And if any of you are wondering, yes, in a few, I think it's next Sunday, which is the 18th of August, I will be away until the 25th. So August 18th to the 24th there will be no videos, which is a shame because I will miss doing that because I'm going on holiday for a week. And I'll be back on the 25th, but I won't be uploading then because it's KSI versus Logan Paul, and I obviously gonna go watch that. So without further ado, commence the honest reviews on Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I hope you all enjoy, and I apologise for the wait. Okay, so as many of you know, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is a game made for the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and the Game Boy Advance. We're not going to be talking about the Game Boy Advance version today because I've never played it, and I also captured footage on the GameCube version. So we are going to be talking about the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube version. This is GameCube version gameplay on original GameCube, so it's not as high quality as what I was doing it when I played it, which is unfortunate, but I had no time to capture 4K gameplay, unfortunately. But as a lot of you will know, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is a 3D platformer collectathon that stars Spongebob, and the plot is Spongebob wants to go to work. He plays a game with Gary, but Gary fetches some treasure, which is eventually revealed that it is the Dutchman's treasure, essentially, and Spongebob accidentally releases him, into which the Dutchman will then take SpongeBob's friends to his graveyard, which you will eventually get to, and it's your job to go to the Dutchman's graveyard whilst collecting numerous letter tiles to reveal clues to where the Dutchman's treasure is, so you can use it against him to defeat him once and for all and save your friends. Now, this game doesn't sound all that fun when you say it like that, and don't get me wrong, as much as I said I like the game, I'll be honest, I don't think it's that great of a game. After playing through it and completing it for the first ever time, and playing through it for the first time after around 5 years, I don't think the game has aged that well, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game by any means. The game is nowhere near on levels of quality as like Sonic 06, for example, or even Sonic Boom, but that doesn't mean the game's fantastic, phenomenal, or a masterpiece. It's not a Nintendo game, it's not a masterpiece, but the game is good for what it is on the console versions anyway. I have not seen the Game Boy Advance version, but I may come back to review that one other day, but I'm not sure yet. But regardless, that's basically the main idea of the game. You play SpongeBob throughout the entire game. You travel through Bikini Bottom, collecting letter tiles to reveal clues to the locations of the Dutchman's treasure, to which if you collect all the Dutchman's treasures, you'll be able to go to his graveyard and take him down and save your friends. Which is actually right, let me just sum this up in a my point of view. So essentially, the game is you running around Bikini Bottom in a 3D environment, which for a GameCube game does look pretty dull, I'll be honest. The graphics aren't that great for a 7th generation console. Is it 7th gen? I think it's 7th generation. It might be 6th, I'm not too sure. Correct me on that one. But anyways, yeah, the graphical style in this game is pretty dull, I'll be honest. I've seen better games on the PS2, such as Kingdom Hearts or Shadow of the Colossus. They are definitely much better games. Now, I think Shadow of the Colossus came out after this game did, so it had time to develop its graphical style. But that doesn't leave an excuse, because we also had Battle for Bikini Bottom, which I think came out a year before this, and even that game looked a lot better than this game. So this game was produced by Blue Sky Studio, and this game led to their closing because of its reception. It was very mixed. Most people said they liked it, a lot of people said they hated it. So it ultimately led to their closure, which is a shame, because I would have loved to see more games from them in the future. They had potential. But this game, it can be fun. It can be boring, but most of the time it's boring, and I'll explain why that is right now. So like I stated, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman has you going around Bikini Bottom collecting letter tiles with SpongeBob's name on it. And once you eventually accomplish that, you'll be taken to one of these stages, a block sliding puzzle, a sliding block puzzle. Now, if you've seen my Finding Nemo review, you will know how much I hate these fucking things, because Finding Nemo is littered with them, and they are actually not hard. They are kind of hard to solve, and they take a lot of time, and it's very boring. Shut up, Sandy. But in this game, they're not bad. It's a case of moving like 4 or 5 tiles. They are made extremely easy. And this game is really easy overall. The only thing that gives it difficulty and length is it's tedious, because, like, let's say some of the missions. Let me think some. You have to collect 200 doubloons, which are the coins essentially. That shit takes a long time if you don't find a decent enough area to farm coins. So it can be a piss take at times. Or even in Jellyfish Fields, catch 100 jellyfish. That takes ages, because that is essentially every jellyfish in Jellyfish Fields. It is really annoying at times and really frustrating to play this game because of how it's like laid out. But then when you get other missions like a platformer or a puzzle solving one that isn't sliding block, or to follow a trail or something, it can be really fun. I have had fun with this game, and I still do have fun with it at times, but only in certain worlds. Like, I'll have a run through of the worlds now. Bikini Bottom, it starts great, but then it finishes a bit dull. Also, what's after that? We have Downtown. Downtown is extensive, it's big, it's very big. You can get easily lost in the main part of Downtown, but other than that, it's kind of dull in a way. It's kind of dull, kind of boring. There's only like 1 or 2, you know. I can't describe Downtown. It's pretty bitchy. Jellyfish Fields. Jellyfish Fields is probably the biggest location in the game, or alongside Goo Lagoon. But Jellyfish Fields is the more boring one because of its missions. It's very, very boring. But then also you have Jellyfish Fields missions. They're not bad. They're not great. They're just kind of dull. Then you have Chum World. Chum World is the most interesting world by far because it takes you to an amusement park built by Plankton. Think Eggman Land from Sonic Unleashed, but a lot smaller, not as difficult, and with Plankton's head all over the place. It's actually kind of nice. It's one of my favourite worlds. The music gets a bit agitating after a while though. The Tree Dome, Sandy's Tree Dome. Sandy's Tree Dome is probably the worst world in the whole game in my opinion. Simply because it involves you just jumping around her treehouse, doing 2 boring karate matches, and then also catching bees. It's the most boring mission set in the world. But it isn't. It looks nice. The aesthetics are nice and whatnot. It's laid out kind of well. The missions are just boring. Then you have Goo Lagoon, which is easily the ugliest level in the entire game. Goo Lagoon looks like a fucking zombie apocalypse like beach. It doesn't look like a beach that you see every day. I mean, even Battle for Bikini Bottom, again, I'm more than sure Battle for Bikini Bottom came out before this, or a year after. But even that looks so much better. Like, look at the sand textures on the floor now that you can see on screen. You'd think it would look like that, but no, it's all orange and nasty. It's really grotty. But I'll probably show a gameplay of that later on when I'm talking about something else. But, honest to God, words can't describe how, like, awful it is, to be honest. But other than that, I mean, you can't complain that much. It's kind of decent, I guess. But then, before you get into Goo Lagoon, you have to collect a total of 50 jellyfish all around each world. That takes the piss, because if you have a mission like collect 20 jellyfish, 20 jellyfish will not count towards that counter. So you have to catch every jellyfish in Bikini Bottom, Jellyfish Fields, Downtown, and the Tree Dome. It takes fucking forever. But once you get 50 of them, you can go to Goo Lagoon, because Larry, the stingy fuck, will not give you his spare bus ticket because he's a bitch. To be honest, Larry in the series, he's kind of nice to SpongeBob, but in this game, he acts like a total prick. He's actually a dickhead. Like, I'm sorry for not making this the most child-friendly review in the world. I can't help myself. Larry's an asshole in this game. Yeah, look at that. 3 words to describe a lobster in 1 sentence. Jesus Christ. And then after that you have the Dutchman's Graveyard, the final level of the game, which is definitely the hardest. Actually no, it's not. Goo Lagoon's the hardest, I'd say. But the Dutchman's graveyard is the coolest by far, because the lava and the big Dutchman's head is really, really cool. I won't be showing gameplay of it or the final boss just because it's spoiler territory, and I don't want to be going into that, because this is a functional review of the game and not a spoiler review, which I may do in the future. I'm not sure though. But anyways, the worlds, I'd give them, in like overall, they're probably a 5 out of 10. Because they are imaginative and they are like set out kind of well. They're just very boring and the missions aren't too fun either. So that is one thing that the game doesn't have going for it. It's the replay value is non-existent, and when you do have to replay certain aspects of the game, it's pretty bad. So far we're off to a pretty negative start, to be completely fair with you. Speaking of the missions, let's talk about a majority of them and how shit they can be. Okay, so we have a mission such as collect 225 doubloons. That shit is boring. Collect 50 jellyfish. Boring. Discover the hidden tile on top of the Ferris wheel. They can be fun, because it involves platforming, patience, but not a lot of patience, and an all around good challenge. Missions where you just explore the world to jump on top of things and collect a tile, they are good. They are what you expect from a game like this. But then when you have a mission to complete the Chump Up minigame, which is like golf, it's so bad and boring, because what you have to do is you have to take SpongeBob's reef blower and you have to use that to roll the ball around a very long course. And I'm telling you now, the ball controls like absolute ass. You cannot control the ball for the life of you. It takes the actual mick, and I can't stress enough how absolutely garbage it is. But if I had to describe the worlds by missions, Bikini Bottom is the best, because it's a tutorial, style world, and the missions aren't very tedious. They're not bad either. They're just a general good time. But then when you move to downtown, its missions are good. But then you can't do one of the missions until you have unlocked the reef blower, which you have to complete Jellyfish Fields for. Which, yes, you can get to it kind of soon, but at the same time you also have to complete Sandy's Tree Dome. So you'll be doing the final mission of World 2 by halfway through the game, which does give you an excuse to travel between worlds and revisit them. But the final mission isn't worth the wait, because it involves the reef blower and it just takes the piss. It's not as bad as Chump Up, but it is still kind of bad. So downtown's missions, I'd say they're a 5. Bikini Bottom is a solid 8. They have good missions. The Tree Dome is probably a 5 as well, because half of it involves just going around Sandy's Tree Dome and slaving away by like clogging leaks in the Tree Dome or catching the bees, having a shitty karate match. It's pretty bad. But then you also have Jellyfish Fields. That is probably a 4 out of 10 in my book, because half of it involves just exploring Jellyfish Fields, which is extremely easy to be lost in. And then most of it is to catch 100 jellyfish, which is the pinnacle of boring. I'm telling you, I've never been so bored in my entire life while playing a game. The only thing that kept me entertained while doing this is singing along to the Jellyfish Suit music, because that shit is catchy. Which I'll go on to talk about the soundtrack in just a moment. But I swear, I can't stress enough how shitty some of these missions are in this game. But then you have Goo Lagoon, which is pretty bad as well. I'll be completely honest with you. Goo Lagoon involves like walking around doing some stuff, but Goo Lagoon is cool. I like Goo Lagoon's mission, because you have to go to the pier after like paying Rusty some sand dollars. I think that's his name, Rusty. And then when you get to the end to catch the tile, and also to get a bottle to consume the Dutchman in once you find him once and for all. The Dutchman appears out of nowhere and makes a ship pilot thing, like a sailor, abandoned ship because of how terrified he was, to dive in the ocean, and the Dutchman takes over and destroys the whole pier with the boat. Now that is a cool moment of the game. That is probably one of the best moments of the entire game. It's actually fantastic the way it's done. And then once you do that, SpongeBob runs out of it and you have to run back in, because you are a little kid that you want, has to explore, which is a brilliant hint by the person that told you to go there in the first place. It's a really good hint, as if to go back there. It's really well done, actually. I have to give them props for that. But then it's a very, very hard platformer challenge all the way through the very big pier, whilst you do some very, very hard jumps. It's a good time if you don't rage like I did, because half of these jumps are bullshit because of the hit collision when you jump between things in this game. You never know if you're gonna land or not, which is another bad thing about the game, but I'll talk about control soon. But if you don't include like you know, how hard it is. It's a good challenge, and it definitely doesn't appeal to younger audiences. They'll probably get the parents to do it for them, but it isn't bad. It's a good challenge. It's a good time. I like it, but not that much, because I did throw something in rage. But it's a good challenge. But then you go to the Dutchman's graveyard. Oh no, I haven't said Chumworld yet, I don't think. Chumworld's got some alright missions. Most of them just include scaling things. So that is fun. It's good platformer action in Chumworld, but with some shitty Ferris, like you know, fairground ride type missions are pretty bad, those ones. But at the same time, they're not all that bad. But then also you have the Dutchman's graveyard, the final level, which is definitely kind of difficult, and also you do see a lot of clowns committing suicide in this game. It's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, the Dutchman's graveyard is definitely the coolest looking world out of them all. Not the prettiest; it's pretty ugly, to be honest. All the worlds are, but it looks kind of cool. I'll give it that. It's got 4 sections to it. You've got the start, the middle, the second middle, and then the end of it. You jump between different ships to access them, which I thought was really cool. But the Dutchman's graveyard has some pretty boring missions as well. Most of it involves very, very bad ass puns, because all it is different pirates saying the word booty over and over and over again. It's very boring. You just have to go around the entire thing, picking up a sack of gold and giving it to them without getting hit. It's boring. And that's half the missions. The other half are just to scale something or collect jellyfish or doubloons. It's pretty boring. But you can't complain that much. That's the whole purpose of the game, really, to do boring missions like that. Well, the game isn't like all boring. You can have a good time with it, but not all of it's a good time. I'll be honest. So there are the missions. So let's talk about how SpongeBob controls in this game. SpongeBob's control. This game controls really, really well. Actually, it's a pleasure to play this game, simply because of how good the controls are. The turning is fine. The sensitivity of it is good. The jumping's balanced. The floaty ability is balanced as well. The super jump's balanced. Well, not all the time. There are big platforming shortcuts you can use with it, which, I'll be honest, they are kind of broken at times because of how much of a chunk of a level you can skip to get to another part of it really quickly without having to do the boring and tedious platforming that is there most of the time. But the general control for this game is good. It controls really fucking well. Like, I'm surprised. Don't get me wrong, the SpongeBob games all around control pretty well. I'll be honest, they do control really good. But the Heavy Iron games control the best in my opinion. Like the movie and Battle for Bikini Bottom, from what I've played so far. I did have a little test run with it. But this game, I'll be like, if you want to pick up a game that's a good time waster in a way, that has bearable control for you and youngsters, this is my go-to game. And because if I had to think of a game off the top of my head that controls absolutely beautifully, I think of Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex, or possibly Crash Insane Trilogy if we're going into the platformer department, because this is what this game essentially is. They control really fucking well, and this game controls really good as well. Like, you can't fault it for its controls. You have to give it a +1. But now that we've got all the gameplay out of the way, let's talk about the soundtrack. Okay, so let me say this now. This soundtrack is actually really good. If you want to fault Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, do that in your own ways, but you cannot fault this game's soundtrack. It's very SpongeBob themed. It goes with the worlds and what you're doing at the current time of it. It's a good soundtrack. It's a solid, well composed soundtrack. So the music that you heard in this video's Honest Reviews intro, it is this song right here, the main theme. A very well done soundtrack. I sing along to it most of the time, as quite a lot of these songs actually. I do sing along to these songs because of how easy they are to sing along to. You can make some really catchy tunes. I might do that one time. But as you can tell, this is the well composed soundtrack. It does fit the theme of the SpongeBob world. So well done. Now we have one of my favourite tracks of Fishing Gear. Gonna go see Mr. Krabs. Gonna head my way down to the Krusty Krab. Grab myself Krabby Patty. also one for Patrick. Take along Squidward and Sandy. Let's get this mission going. Going to take down the Dutchman. Get his treasures and my friends back. There's no time to waste, SpongeBob. Let's get yourself rolling. Collect the tile so you can take down that bitch any moment now. As you can tell, that is a very easy song to sing along to, and I have a blast singing along and making lyrics up. I do not have a script in front of me right now as I was singing that. That was completely off the top of my head, because that's how easy it is. Just I don't have a script for this video entirely. I didn't have time to write one because I just want to get this out as soon as possible, because I want to get as many videos pushed out and recorded before I go on holiday. So yeah, as you can tell, it's very easy to sing along to. But then you have the mermaid. Oh yeah, Mermaid Man. The Mermaid Man soundtrack is brilliant. It does make you think, like, it does make you think that you are a superhero and whatnot. It is really, really good. I love it. But I do like how it's all like made as well, because it's kind of futuristic in a way, and also kind of rock styled. I like it. It's got a nice guitar riff. But then you also have the reef blow, which is probably one of my all-time favorites. Very similar to Mermaid Man, but I like the guitar riff a bit more. Very well done piece of work. I can like commend the people who made this. And this game has a very, like, if this game does have an available soundtrack to buy on CD or whatever, don't buy it, just download it, because there's only 9 tracks. It's not worth your money. It is a good soundtrack though. But then you also have the karate match. Does make you think of karate indeed, but then there's one part of the song which I really like. I don't know why, but there's something about that one part of the song where that guy screams that I really like. It's really funny. Then you have Chum World. It does sound like a theme park, and then later on, it does sound like an evil theme park. Now, it's kind of what Chum World is. It's an evil theme, it's an evil theme park. It goes really, really well. Then you have the puzzle. It does make you sound like you're in a panic, and you're because you are on a timer during this section, and it does make you think about everything that's going on around your head and shit, and you have to get this done. Very well done. But then you also have the sound of you going to find the treasure. Very ominous and mysterious indeed. And that's the point. Very well composed. Very ominous. I like it. But then you have the final song of the entire game, which is the Dutchman's Graveyard, which does make you think of a pirate. This is the only thing I'm going to show of the Dutchman's Graveyard as well. I'm not going to show the actual gameplay of it, just for, for spoiler territory. This is the only thing I'll show. But I'll say this now. The soundtrack does not go with the world. I am more than sure this doesn't sound like a lava land, because the Dutchman's Graveyard is basically full of lava. That's all it is. It's lava platforming, but this still sounds really good. So props on the soundtrack. So now that we have all that out of the way, let me give you my final thoughts on Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. So my final thoughts on Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. This game is pretty average, I'll be honest. It's not a masterpiece, it's not trash, it's not, it's in the middle. Because the game, it controls fine, it doesn't look very good, the animations are kind of, spiffy. but not spiffy as Patrick would use. It's pretty shitty at the same time as being kind of clean, especially with the Dutchman as well. The way his eyes shake, it's kind of nice. The voice acting's good because you have the original voice crew. Yes, they managed to get Clancy Brown for Mr. Krabs, which is always a plus in my book because that shit's impossible these days. The only games that managed that is this game and SpongeBob the movie as well. That is always a plus on my account. But what would I give this game out of 10? I would give it a solid 5 out of 10. I'll be honest. The game doesn't deserve a 6 just because of how much it does wrong. I'll be honest, let me talk about the control a bit more. If you played this, if you played this with a D-pad, you would still have a good time, even if you're not using a thumbstick or whatnot. It would still be pretty fun. But that's not what I'm trying to say. The soundtrack goes well with every level. It's a very well composed soundtrack as well. The sound effects are good. The graphics are shit. They're not very good, they're very washed out. The gameplay is fun at times. The missions are pretty bad most of the time. You know, not all of them are great. They're kind of boring. But the plot as well, it's a very interesting plot. To be honest, there is quite a bit to fault the game for. But at the same time, you can commend it for a lot because it did try it. The game really did try. But it didn't do as good as everyone expected it to do. So it has to be a 5. I'm sorry. If you love this game, it's your favourite game, I apologise. I just can't see everything that's well about this game. It isn't bad, it isn't good, it's average, it's mediocre, it's a 5 out of 10. So there are my honest reviews on SpongeBob SquarePants Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. If you guys did enjoy with this video, even though it was a huge delay on this video being published, which I apologise for, please be sure to slap a like on the video, it is greatly appreciated. And also make sure to let me know what you guys think of this game, you know, your overall score and what you think of all the points that I mentioned. Thank you for watching this video. Leave a like if you liked the video, obviously. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And I will, of course, see you all in the next video of mine or live stream. Take care and peace out, guys.